Hey, Sam Visnick here from Release Muscle Therapy, and today in this video I'm going to show you 4 very simple but powerfully effective stretches that you can do for sacroiliac joint issues. Stay tuned. So we're going to take a kneeling position just like we are in right now that looks just like a lunge. We want to make sure that the knee is directly underneath the hip, and we want to make sure that this front leg is out at least a 90-degree angle. Of course, you can move the leg forward or backward, whatever helps you with your balance the most. If you feel imbalanced, it's better off that you hold on to something so you're more concerned with getting the stretch than you are trying to balance yourself. So it's completely okay. Now, to get this stretch, a lot of times you'll see people just lunge forward into the stretch and just try and get the leg back as far as they can. While this does get a stretch, you have to move very far to get it. It's very inefficient. And if you look at the lumbar spine, it starts to extend as the pelvis tips down and forward. So if we're trying to correct anterior pelvic tilt, we don't want to keep pushing you into anterior pelvic tilt and then stretching the muscles in that position. Doesn't make sense. We can be a little bit more efficient. So, and come back to the start position, the easiest way to begin this stretch, and usually all you have to do, is to perform a relatively aggressive posterior pelvic tilt. So when we go into a posterior pelvic tilt, we're going to be elongating those muscles, especially when that knee is bent. So right there, we're already getting a stretch just by going into posterior pelvic tilt. Stretching the glutes and the external hip rotators can be done with the simple movement. We can refer to it as the 90-90 or the cross-legged stretch, either way. So what we're going to do is sit on the floor so that one leg is straight out in front of you at a 90-degree angle. What's very important about this is that the leg does move straight and it's not bent too much or the leg is out to the side. It can cause knee stress if it's too tight. So make sure the leg is out at a 90-degree angle and it's relaxed. The other leg is going to be just kicked behind you with the knee bent. So that leg does not matter very much in the stretch as long as this one is in the right position. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to place the hand on the floor midway across the shin. Now the outside hand is going to go equal distance just outside of the knee. So the hands are parallel through the front of the knee. From this position, if you're not getting a stretch already, which if you're extremely tight you will be, we can enhance the stretch simply by performing an anterior pelvic tilt. So what we're going to do is arch the back, lift the chest up, and imagine your pelvis is a bucket of water, and we tilt that bucket of water forward on top of the leg. So that anterior pelvic tilt is going to move the origin insertion of the glutes further apart. And of course, that's going to increase the stretch. So we hold on to that position, arching the back, and the weight is going down into the hands for the prescribed amount of time on your stretching and exercise program. And then we allow the pelvic tilt to let go, and then we come back to the starting position for the rest. So this is done by starting kneeling next to the ball. And what I'm going to have you do is to roll over the side of the ball here. And the way we want to position it is so that the top leg is in line with the rest of the body. The bottom leg can be used for balancing. It's kicked out to the front. You can bend it or straighten it if you like, whatever's more stable for you. So we're always going to start kind of low on the ball to begin with, and we can move over the ball further as we want a greater stretch or to make the movement a little bit more precise. So the bottom hand is on the ground. It's used for balance. The top arm, we're going to lift it straight up to the sky and up and over the arm, or up and over the head. So as we let it bend, we start to get tension on the tricep, which transfers to the lat and all the way down the rest of the muscles on the side of the body. So from this position, we're going to see areas in the spine that are not rounded very well. Those are generally the areas that are restricted. So in order to get our stretch, first of all, we get into the right position, which we usually have it at this point. We want to make sure we take nice deep breaths into the area where it feels restricted. And when we do that, we'll stretch all of the small muscles in between the ribs. We'll help open up the thoracic and the lumbar spine. So nice big deep breaths. And every time exhaling, relaxing a little bit further. So what we're going to do is stand in a position where the feet are directly underneath the hips and the feet are going perfectly straight ahead. What we're going to do is to create a soft lock in the knees. That's where the knees are fully locked out, and all we do is bend them just enough where we see muscle activity. From that point, we don't want the knees to bend anymore. We're going to place the hands across the chest. Then next, what we're going to do is perform an anterior pelvic tilt. That's where the pelvis goes down and forward. Another way of thinking about it is if somebody has a hook underneath your tailbone and lifting it up to the sky, which causes the pelvis to tilt forward. Now we want to maintain that position, and we're going to imagine that there's a fulcrum, that's the bending point where the body moves, is in the hip joint. So that way when we bend forward, we maintain our lumbar curve and we tip forward from the hips rather than folding forward in the lumbar spine. So on the way down, if we keep the chest lifted, and what I'm going to ask you to do is to go ahead and tip forward, and we keep that arch in the back till approximately right there. Now from this point, we should feel a hamstring stretch if we're in the right position. If you're really, really flexible, one thing to do is to make sure you keep lifting the tailbone up so you pull more tension into the hamstrings. If that doesn't work, then you can continue to bend forward, coming forward from the hips. When we get down into that position, we hold it for the recommended amount of time, and then to return back to the starting position, all we do is push the hips forward. That's the easiest way to go. So rather than jerking the spine upward, which is going to cause an aggressive extension in the lumbar spine, all we do is just push the hips forward back to the starting position.